is a real problem. And that was one rotation. I've been out over 8 different years on rotations where I had to come back. But I had the affordability because, number one, I was a doctor. Number two, I could go to the doctors at the State Department, and they could handle that problem. But I've never seen such an atrocity now.
Sure.
Where not only is a lie made a mockery. I mean, the lie that we killed Osama bin Laden. We didn't kill anyone. That man was dead. And that our presidents would continue these lies in order to justify their selfish political careers, in order to justify that they had to come into power where they've done nothing. And instead, our economy is going down, our men are dying, and our infrastructure.
I have one more question for you on that front. Because I heard you take a double take, but we put them up on screen, mainstream news articles with artificial legs ordered back into combat, not just part of the foot blown off, whole legs ordered back in, even when some of them don't want to go back. But it's funny you mentioned the head injury, because they admit the body armor keeps you alive, but messes up your brain. It turns out that Bales, that went crazy and went and killed reportedly 18 people in one night off base, he had been in multiple IED attacks, including ones where whole armored vehicles were thrown over and people killed. So he clearly had brain damage. And so now they're going to put him behind bars when he was clearly doing this by reason of insanity. I mean, and I'm not trying to get him off. I don't
know the specific case, but it's not unusual. In other words, most of these men who've gone to war, number one, they don't see the enemy. Number two, they often hit indirectly by either concussion bombs, IEDs, and they literally have a concussion of the brain, not once, not twice, but several times. It's like a football game that never ends, but with serious weapons. And basically your brain is damaged. You can have every serotonin inhibitor you want, but unless you have psychiatric treatment for the rest of your life, not virtual imaging or desensitization or nurse telling you everything's fine or there's a problem in your family, or some veteran in the VA telling you that it's not working well because they increased the number of managers. They didn't fire General Shinseki, who should have been fired years ago for the criminal activity that he's... And this was a veteran, a man who lost his war in Vietnam, his leg. And we took care of him. But the answer is he's not taking care of our veterans. And this president really doesn't care. Neither does the vice president, who, by the way, has 2 aneurysms in his brain. That's what accounts for a lot of the stupidity that comes out of his mouth. But the real issue right now is our country has to address these issues. And unfortunately, we don't have politicians. Why? Because most politicians, as I explained to you, I've treated many congressmen and senators, are basically people, mostly men, who are fearful. They're not able to do anything on their own. They go into a system which is based on manipulation and basically pandering, and they're fearful to come out and do something that most Americans do, which is to create a job, to sustain something for themselves, much as you did, much as I've done. I mean, I've started different companies many times. I've failed many times, like a mechanic, like a farmer, like a truck driver who has his own business. I just ride on the road, and I love to see my truckers because that's their business. They're hauling freight. They have to worry about the oil. They have to worry about the infrastructure of the truck. The politician has no idea. They're passing laws that they had no idea. They're taken care of health-wise, mental health. They can see the doctors they want in Bethesda Naval Hospital anytime they want. They go on junkets and vacation, be it Paul Ryan, be it Biden. Any one of them has that. The only one who's had any experience has been Romney. He had to go out in the real world. I'm not saying I'm for or against him, but the reality of the entrepreneur is that they have to go out and create their own businesses.
It's funny you raise that, Doc.
I shouldn't vilify politicians, but there's no way I can respect them.
Sure.
I come here not to bury Caesar, but I come to praise the politicians who really lived in a cocoon, in a socialized system where they have been treated, and they deserve to have a 10% approval rating. That means America has to rise again and say, this is not a system that works for us. And it's not working for us in the military, in the intelligence, the executive branch, or the legislative branch. And as one brilliant analyst once said, he said, our political and economic elites have failed this country. And that's what I'm afraid of.
Well, they certainly have, but it's interesting that you raised that point about the weird bubble cocoon of ninnying and sycophantic behavior where Congress exempts itself from its own insider trading laws and where it's prostitutes, both male and female, are ubiquitous like water fountains. I mean, it's a total disconnect. But it's funny you raise that about entrepreneurs. I wanted to ask you that question. What do you make of Obama? Because that is such a disconnected statement that I find it frightening. That's one of the few things that actually really got me concerned, that the system is so over the top now in la land that they're saying you didn't build it if you have a business. You know, you didn't write those books, Steve. You didn't, when you infiltrated foreign countries or got people assassinated, you didn't do that, Doc. You know, if I get up at 6 a.m. and start researching stuff, or I work 18 hours a day, or I paint an oil painting, I didn't do that. I mean, that's what Stalin and people said, and Lenin said before they took, you know, the Ukrainians' land and killed 10 million of them. I mean, that is an amazingly open, authoritarian, North Korean style la land, that you didn't grow that crop in North Korea. Kim Jong-il did it.
Well, I'm not going this far. I mean, I know about Kim Jong-il. I know a lot about stuff. Obama is no Stalin. Let's get it correctly. He's not even a communist. He's not any political spectrum. He really comes out of a system that's called Chicago politics. And I think you want to really understand Chicago politics, and Mayor Daley and the henchmen who came out of there, the Donlins, the others who grew out of the Chicago politics. And it comes out of patronage. It comes out of corruption. But some of it worked. Now, Obama has no history. It's a man. It's the X-Man. He has no history. He has no coordinates. The only coordinates I can tell you about that I feel comfortable at is, number one, his mother was a CIA operative in the 1960s. His grandfather on his mother's side was a CIA operative. And his grandfather on his mother's side was also, and grandmother and grandfather were both CIA operatives. As to where he was born, I don't know. As to the visas, as to why he has restricted history, should never have been allowed in this country. Everything about a president of the United States should be transparent. He has not been transparent. All he has been is a lot of verbiage with very little action and follow-through. Now, that may work in Chicago. It does not work in the United States of America. To accuse him of a communist or being a North Korean, that's absurd. I don't agree with that.
No, Doc, hold on, because you're on cell phone and you can't hear me all the time because it's one way, basically.
Right.
I mean, it's a figure of speech. I'm saying I've heard and read.
But I don't want him. I don't want him in any way to be put in a narrative which really doesn't delineate the real issues of Obama.
No, I hear you, but I wasn't, Doc, I wasn't technically saying he works for the North Koreans. I'm saying,
I know what you mean.
I'm saying I've read the North Korean literature where they say the state makes the sun come up in the morning. And what I'm asking you as a psychiatrist, what type of mindset, how do you have to be so disconnected to not know that would piss everybody off in America who's ever had any type of business, either large or small, to say you didn't bake those donuts, you didn't build that? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, that's correct, Alex. But let me go back to the bubble I talked about in politicians. He is the pure political animal who has no history, no coordinates other than his own narcissism, which means his own self-love, his own willingness to manipulate and lie to achieve whatever he needs, not any different. Democrats, they both have the same criteria. His own need to pander at times when he needs to pander, you know, treat me nice, give me this, and I in turn will give you whatever you need. And then he has the ability to continuously distort reality. So what do you call that? In many terms, we call it sociopath. In my world, because I treated congressmen and senators, I call that a politician. By birth and by nature, politicians are sociopaths. They have to be, because they have to lie and distort their own histories, their own accomplishments, be it Republican, Democrat, right-wing, left-wing, it doesn't matter. The Stalins of the world, however, believe it or not, they're more real, because they're going to kill you right in front of you. They say, I'm going to kill you, they kill you. Kim Jong-il says, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. They're very predictable. The Obamas are not real. They're detached from the United States. There's a quality about Obama, and I'm not saying anything about his birth, that he is not really connected to America. He doesn't understand the American values. Let me explain what I mean by that. The American values that I hold, and I think you hold and most of the audience holds dearly, are entrepreneurial values. We're not big companies. We're not big banks. We're not big finance. This is not Soros. This is not J.P. Morgan Chase. We're not Goldman Sachs. We are little business people, who little meaning anything below 500 million or below, where we build our own businesses and we live and die by what we create. When we create something, we want to profit from it. When we fail at it, we want to try again. The beauty of the American experience is not that we succeed, it's that we can fail and come back again the next day. Obama doesn't know that. He doesn't understand it. Donlan doesn't understand it. Brandon doesn't understand it. There's not one man in that White House or woman in that White House who understands it. What they've had is pandering, and many of them had affirmative action. That's fine. I did not come in on affirmative action. I wasn't born here. I had to learn this language. I had to get scholarships. I had to go to a school. The irony of all I'm white, okay? I'm a Caucasian. The irony is, between Obama and me, one of us went to private school, and guess who it was? It was Obama. I went to a school called Booker T. Washington on 108th Street in Amsterdam. That was an all-black school. I was a minority. I didn't get to a private school. I had to earn a scholarship. Among 2 million people, it was called the Regency State Scholarship. What made America great for me was I was allowed to try the best I could on merit to earn out of 2,800,000 of us earned a scholarship to go to Cornell University. They didn't care whether it was white, green, or blue. All they cared was that I could score on a certain score. Then I went to a Cornell Medical School on a scholarship. Then I went into the military. I have not seen any. This is the first time in 83 years of our election that neither man has ever served in the military. Whatever I can say for Obama, I can also say for Romney. Where was he during the Vietnam era? Why didn't he go into the military? Why did John Huntsman, who had a similar background, serve our country 4 to 5 times and had 2 sons in the Navy presently, yet not one of his 8 children, boys, have served in the military, nor did Romney. So the question becomes is, what are our leaders coming to? What is the political elite that we so-called cherish? They're willing to spend billions of dollars, but none of them address the issue.
Well, Doctor, we're almost out of time. I want to hit a few other final points, but what you say is fundamental. In every culture, the royalty, the ruling elite had to go out and be in the battle, and cultures in serious decline were always marked by emperors, often smoky, ballrooms, partying and having orgies. And you only see that happen right when an empire collapses. And we do see an elite who, rah-rah, war, who absolutely run from it. All the neocon chicken hawks, to a man, ran and got deferments and staged things not to get into combat. And I think it really is one of the signposts showing that we have, I agree with you, I mean, even these murderous dictators, Stalin robbed banks. Stalin actually worked his way up in a bunch of killer communists to the top.
That's correct.
He's evil. Right, he's evil.
That's right.
I mean, he's evil, but you've got to respect him because he's real. Yep. These are just empty teleprompter reading jellyfish, and that's what makes them so dangerous, because now they're so amoral, they're publicly using Al-Qaeda to go in and kill the Christians and people in Syria. And have you seen the new stuff where they've got the guy torturing him to make him go suicide bomb? I mean, it is just unbelievable how immoral the ruling elite have gotten.
Well, the key issue now is, whatever you and I have said, I still believe in the American dream and the American people. Unfortunately, no one has articulated. I'm just a small businessman who served my country. That's it. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud I can stand up and say I don't agree and I disagree. That's what allows me to stay in this country and to fight. I'm no more brave than anybody else. Somebody said to me, how come you're not afraid of getting killed? Because in my world, that's not what the issue is. In my world, if I don't stand up for someone, then someone is not going to stand up for me. That's the American way. But do not use our men and women to go to wars that we don't need, and don't bring them back and then treat them as